Why, hello there. It's good to see you around. Welcome along to Cornflake's Crib and welcome back to the Super Rugby program where we are looking ahead to round 11 in a couple of days' time. Super Rugby action coming your way. We have plenty of matches to have a look at this weekend. Round 11 has 7 matches. Like always, let's kick things off by having a look at the teams who are on the bye. There are 4 teams this weekend. They will be having a bye, having a rest and recuperation. Those 4 teams will be the Jaguars, the Lions, the Rebels and the Stormers. And you have to say, the Lions, they really need it. The Rebels as well, and the Stormers, well, I don't think it would go amiss for them either. The one team that probably wouldn't mind backing up from last weekend would be the Highlanders, who wouldn't mind another stab at what they put together last weekend. But alas, they are on the bye, so they will be missing out on action this weekend. The 7 matches we have to look through will kick things off at the start Friday night, where the opening match of the round will be at AMI Stadium in Christchurch, where the Crusaders, returning from the round 10 bye, are up against the Queensland Reds. And I think this is a pretty interesting opening match as well. The Crusaders, of course, without Nadolo, a big talking point around this matchup. And the Reds, to their credit, were amazing last weekend against the Cheetahs. It was a massive result to put the Cheetahs to the sword like they did. Crusaders, with the first match of the round, could take top spot if they get the job done. Although it is quite unlikely, they need a decent nudge of points differential if they're going to get there, but they'll be there or thereabouts with the Chiefs. If they can get 5 points, the Crusaders, they could be leading the ladder. The Reds, I think, will give them a good fight, but ultimately, come the end of the day, I think the Crusaders are really building towards that top shelf position we know they are capable of, and they're really showing what their abilities lie. They've been talking this week about how they're not a one-man team. Nadolo isn't their only real strike weapon. Well, we're going to see it for the next few weeks, whether that is true or not with the Crusaders, and I'm picking they're going to do quite well against the Reds, firing away quite late on to take the victory. 33-16 is my prediction. Crusaders with a win to open up round 11. Following up with that, we move away to Canberra, where we find the Brumbies hosting the Bulls. And this is a very interesting matchup because the Brumbies very, very low on confidence and very, very low on form, it seems, after big hurting losses against the Crusaders and the Highlanders over the last couple of weeks as well. They're back at home, but they're back at home to the scorching hot Bulls, who were fantastic last weekend. Expect fireworks in this one. I think the Bulls really a team that knows how to attack, and I really enjoy the way that the Bulls play as well. The Brumbies, they need to live and learn. They need to develop on what the Bulls do and what they've been beaten by over the last couple of weeks. But it looks like the Aussie Conference is just going to get weaker and weaker as we go on. The Bulls, I think, will be too much for the Brumbies, and they'll take a 36-22 win in Australia. The away road trip for the Bulls looks very, very tasty so far. Game 3 of round 11 sees the Sunwolves still in Tokyo. This time they are getting a visit from the Western Force. Now this is a real big opportunity for the Sunwolves to go for their second win. Now they've got the Force travelling away. They looked pretty bad last weekend. The Sunwolves had the bye, of course, as well in round number 10, so they're fresh. They've had that exuberance from their victory against the Jaguars, and against a team like the Force that have seemed to be falling away at the seams versus teams that like to attack, especially on the counter-attack. I think it's something we will see a lot of by the Sunwolves. They will attack after any kick away from the Force, and like we've seen from the Bulls last weekend as well, that's what they'll look to mould their game on, and I think they have a really big chance of coming away with the victory against the Force. My score prediction on this one is 38-33 Take a guess, it's the Sunwolves. I've got them with a second win of Super Rugby against the Force at home. We make our way back to Saturday evening, Waikato Stadium. The Chiefs are still at home and they've got a visit from the most southern franchise, the Highlanders, making their way up to Hamilton. And this is going to be an absolute ding-dong battle between these two sides on Waikato Stadium. Flip a coin, guys, flip the coin, and whoever you land on surely will be the winner. I mean, that's how close these two teams are. It could be really tight, it could be open, it could be free-flowing, who knows? Both of these sides have the game to beat the other. It's just a question of who is going to turn up. The Chiefs have a little edge of the home advantage, but it's too tough to really tell. The New Zealand Conference is so tough and so strong. The Highlanders, I think they need to see more of that defence they've seen in round 10 against the Brumbies. That's what we need to see from them if they're to nullify the Chiefs' attack, which is going to be their strong point for the Chiefs and for both sides, really a good tip anyway. Defence versus attack, both sides very clinical in both areas of the field. What's going to turn up? Are we going to see the Highlanders' immaculate defence like round 10? Are we going to see the Chiefs' phenomenal attack like we saw 3-4 rounds ago? I can't really pick, but I'm going to nudge it just to the home team. I can't think of anything else to separate these two sides. I've got the Chiefs by 3, 44-41. I want to see some tries. I want to see some open, hard-running, big-breaking, all-out attack from these two fantastically talented sides, but the Chiefs to pip it by a whisker. We make our way over to Allianz Stadium in Sydney, where the Waratahs are up against the Cheetahs, and what can you say about the Cheetahs? They were a massive letdown last weekend. I doubted the Cheetahs at the start of the season, and they grew on me. Their performances impressed me to the point where I actually started to believe that they could be a decent threat in Super Rugby this year. Their performance against the Reds was anything but it seems to be of the Cheetahs, the second that you doubt them and stop backing this team, they perform. It's a very bizarre way of thinking about it, but that seems to be what happens. And it works the other way around as well when you start to get confidence in what this Cheetahs team can do and think, yeah, they're going to get this big win this weekend. They fall apart completely and crumble like a cookie all over the floor. It's just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. The Waratahs, I think they're starting to learn how to battle ugly wins, and they seem to have found a way to do it. Last couple of weeks have been anything but impressive performances, but they're getting the W's, which is all that really matters for the Waratahs after an indifferent little passage a couple of weeks ago that really put their season in jeopardy as well. And those two reasons put together gives me a winner of the Waratahs. 23-17 is my score prediction. The Cheetahs just look completely at sea away from home, and the Waratahs, if they can continue to just battle and just really dig deep for each other, they should get the win here over the Cheetahs. We make our way over to Kings Park in Durban, where the Sharks are up against the Hurricanes, and who can really look past the Hurricanes after their performance against the Lions? The team really fancied as a big threat for this tournament, just demolished by the Hurricanes. The Sharks, they're the top defensive side, maybe not on the actual points conceded. Let's have a look. And yep, upon further investigation, the Sharks are in fact the best defensive side in Super Rugby, only conceding 156 points so far from their 9 matches, which is a very, very good defence, it has to be said, but there is a but. They've only scored 174, which is less than the Sunwolves, and that is only more than the Force and the Kings, which that tells you a really, really big story about the Sharks and that their defence is the be-all and end-all and they defend to attack. That's really the only way I can put it. They score points off their defence forcing mistakes, and when you look at them against the Hurricanes, a team that have plundered points for fun, almost 300 for the season, and their defence isn't bad either. Only 194 conceded when you compare them to the Sharks. That's only just under 40 points more conceded by the Hurricanes from their 9 matches. It has to be said, it's the Hurricanes attack versus the Sharks defence. The Hurricanes will just score points for fun. Can the Sharks nullify the attack of the Hurricanes? That is my question for this one. In my opinion, I think the Hurricanes will be too much, too strong for the Sharks. And the only real way I can see the Sharks coming anything out of this match will be if the Hurricanes have an absolute nightmare, which they can do. Don't forget, they can go absolutely pear-shaped and have a nightmare and cough up a hell of a lot of errors. That could see a real open door for the Sharks. But apart from that, I've got the Hurricanes running away 39-19 over the Sharks. Final match of round 11. It is the Kings versus the Blues. Now, the poor old Kings got absolutely thumped last weekend in round 10 by the Jaguars. The Blues are on the road, but the Kings, like we say, have been pretty dreadful. The travel to South Africa has come against the Blues as expected, but I think they've looked pretty decent in recent weeks, and when they're up against a team that's looked as bad as the Sharks, it could be a nice build-in for the Blues onto their tour of South Africa. If they can get a good win here, build on confidence, get themselves really adapted to South Africa before their next match, which is always going to be a tougher opponent, there's no question about that, they could really be a threat through their tour. And if you have a good tour, it always results in good things when you get back home as well. We know that the Kings can score points. That's not one of the questions we want to ask. The fact is that they can score tries, they look pretty decent on attack, and they have game-breaking players when they have the ball in hand. But the question for the Kings is their defence. In fact, the whole thing is, where is their defence? Because they've got none at all. They have conceded more points than the top-scoring team, which is the Chiefs, have scored. So that just gives you that bit of comparison that the Kings defensively are dreadful. Well and by far the most conceded points for the season as well. So it all looks bad for the Kings. Can they find a way to actually make a few tackles against a team that's full of X-Factor game breakers like the Blues? It seems rather unlikely. As a result of all that, I've got the Blues coming out on top of this one, 48-20. We know the Kings can score, like I said, so we'll give them a few tries for their efforts, but the Blues, too good, and a flurry of tries will come their way. It should even be bigger than that, like we seen last weekend with the Jaguars. But that wraps us up. That is our 7 matches of Super Rugby coming up this weekend for round 11. As always, let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. And as always, there will be someone getting a shout out for the top picks out of the comments in the review next week. So get your thoughts, get your picks in below, and have a stab and see how good you can do at picking these Super Rugby fixtures. But for this video, that is my time done and dusted. Thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope this helps you make your own picks as well. And I'll see you all soon in a few days' time for the round 11 review. Until then, enjoy your weekend of rugby. And as always, take care.